you doing, my friends? Well, it seems like a long time. I'm not tying my soul to the downward grind.
Hey, welcome into another episode of Tony Talks Trash About Music. And tonight I think I'm going to invade on some territory that other people know a heck of a lot more than me. You know, there's so many channels out there that do such a great job with prog rock and talk about prog rock. And I know a lot of the prog rock folks are I share a lot of the same likes with that. Some of the stuff we're going to do, we're going to do a big Zappa thing here before long. And there's a lot of other ones. We're right in the middle of this thing with my friend Dino, where we're doing we may be doing the terrible three. At least we're doing two out of the three. I know we're doing Lou and the Velvets next. We did David Bowie the other night, but I'm going to dip my toe in here, the Prague Quarters, and one band that has really gotten a lot of more press than they probably had when they were around, and that's Gentle Giant. The truth of it is, living where we live, one of our biggest exposures to music was there was a gentleman that lived up the road here, who I still think owns a store, and I'm not going to name him. He may be alive, he may not be. But one of the things he did was he would periodically go out to the Capitol plant in Winchester and pick up their garbage. Well, they throw out all kinds of seconds and they throw out things. So we had the entire catalog back here. We had the Kraftwerk stuff that was on there, Beatles stuff. I remember getting the red album, the white album, just little small minor defects in them. There's nothing wrong with them at all. But that's how we ran into some of the Gentle Giant stuff, some of the stuff on Capitol, and it was a complete trip here. I never heard anything like it. It's classically influenced. Some of the arrangements too, that they have the Baroque arrangements with the choral chants and rounds where somebody sings and somebody else sings. They move a lot around on instruments. They really work through a lot of different incarnations if you think about it. I mean, I guess one of the carnations is probably thought of as the peak. But as we look at the members here, and they say, some of the things that the band's really known for, really some of the hard harmonies that they did, lyrics that are a little bit obtuse, and organization, the concept things, changes in tempo, also syncopation and polymetric acceleration, where part of them would be accelerating and other parts wouldn't be. Madrigal form, like on knots and stuff, just fantastic. On reflection, really, really good stuff. They really put their education out there, and it wasn't a turnoff. They did it tastefully. I can imagine how hard it would be and how hard they had to work that into there. And indeed, they started off with a band called Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. And if you hear Kites and you hear the songs from on here, you won't believe that this band kind of morphed into Gentle Giant. But what I want to do is I want to count down these records. There's not that many of them, but I want to talk about the lineups. There's essentially four lineups. There are four people that have been in it the entirety. Get Mr. Gary Green from the beginning of February 70 all the way through June 80 when it ended. Kerry Minier, who I think is the most underrated individual in the band. Nobody talks about. Quiet guy. The stuff he writes is just the best stuff for me. I love his voice. I love everything. I love that one song he did, Meeting in This Way, No One Could Have Known. I just love it. He's just got a delicate soul, and the little lines he plays too are just so innovative. They're fantastic. Derek Shulman, of course, Mr. Record Company executive when he was done, and into the 90s and stuff. Lead vocal, saxophone, flute, drums. Actually, saxophone, recorder, keyboards, bass guitar, drums, percussion. Incredible. And then in the early era, Phil Shulman. And Phil Shulman was in for a while with lead vocal, saxophone, and trumpet. He was in both the February 70 to October 71 and October 71, which is Mach 2. And really the only change with that band was the change from Martin Smith, the drummer, to Malcolm Mortimer, who played in the early records and was eventually replaced then by John Pugwash Weathers, who took over from 1972 forward, and you can hear it. At that point, Phil was still in, and at that point, Phil jumped out in January 1973 on or about Glass House time, and it was left to the five of them to finish it out. So in that period, you had Gary, Carrie, Derek, Ray, and John. And four of those were there from the beginning. Amazing. And John was there a long time. So if you look, Derek all the way there, Phil Shulman, it shows to beginning to about 1973, the beginning. Martin Smith to looks like right after 1971, early, maybe second or third month. And then John and Malcolm comes in, and then Malcolm goes to about March of 72, and then John Weathers moves on. So anyway, let's talk about this. We're 5 minutes in here. I love this band. Something about them are different. You know, I rate them different than the Genesis and the Yes, which I like too. I like this stuff as well. But this is a different animal probably because of its classical influence. You know, that's the thing about Zappa too that people talk about a lot. And I think they miss it. He had such a heavy classical, modern classical stuff. But let's start with the obvious here one and what that's going to be. Well, what is it going to be? Let's see. There's 11 records here. And we're going to start with not the last one, but damn close to the last one. And you know exactly where I'm starting, don't you? It's 1978, and it's a Cutaway Mask, and it's Giant for a Day. And you've got here Rock Climber on this. Spooky Boogie's maybe okay. Worse Than the Wise is okay, but Thank You, Giant for a Day, I don't like. It's Only Goodbye, No Stranger Friends, Little Brown Bag. Man, I just don't know what went wrong here. Nobody does. And, it's pretty much universally ranked as the worst. And I'm sorry that I can't break the mold here. We just got a big surprise last night. We have one. I'm not going to tell you what it is if you follow this channel, but we just had one where we had somebody's favorite was somebody's least favorite, which is interesting. Let's go on to the next record, number 10. And actually, I'm turning around, and some of the songs on this aren't bad. 2 Weeks in Spain, I'm turning around. Who Do You Think You Are? Bet You Thought We Couldn't Do It, which is kind of silly. It's just straightforward. For Nobody's okay. Memories of Old Days, okay. It's just not the same band. You can tell they've turned the corner into some pop feelings there, and because of that, there's only a few good songs. It's there. Now, I rank the final record, Civilian, a little bit closer because I do like a couple of the songs on this. This reminds me in a way of kind of drama, and I don't know why it does. I guess it was at about the same time. And it was kind of a change, and it was kind of a different here. And they had a song, I Am a Camera. It's a different song, but all through the night, Convenience. I love it. Convenience is a good song. And Inside Out, it's not Imagination decent too. So I don't mind. I don't mind this record. I don't like Underground too much, but the rest of it's pretty good. And the truth of it is, as time goes on, it climbs, it grows on me. I wouldn't say it's exactly a well, it might be. I've put it on. I found myself putting it on lately, more than I would have done in the past, just out of curiosity. Some of it, but not bad. And now we're going to go on to next to their second record here, which I used to love when I had this song. The first track on this is really beautiful. It's called I can't remember the name of the Pantagruel's Nativity. How Can I Laugh or Cry? Yeah, this is good. It's really good. It's a good record. It reminds me, it's a Tony Visconti production. Obviously, you can hear it. It's funny, you hear this and you hear Bowie, Man Who Sold the World, and you realize that they were recorded pretty close to the same time. Pretty amazing stuff, man, to be in the room with that guy and his creative mind. But yeah, good record. Like it. Plain Truth, they played a heck of a lot. What was the other one? There's one other one on here. Acquiring the Taste too. The short is just a short Moog piece by Carrie. But I just love Carrie, man. Wreck. Yeah, I think it's good. I like it. Black Cat. Good record, good progression here. I have it as number 8. And what did it progress from? Well, it progressed from the very first record, which is called Gentle Giant. And you look at it and you say, well, is this the Three Friends album? If you're in the United States, yeah, it is. But it's the British first one, so you need to get used to that idea. Giant, Funny Ways is just one that they played pretty much till the end. Alucard was one that they played. I love Nothing at all. Why Not is a little bit A little heavy for me. A little kind of reminds me of some of this stuff. Kind of has a touch of it. They're going for a Jethro Tull thing with the vocal thing too. But just a fantastic record. I have a nice tall tail inside this uh, nice little gatefold here. Beautiful production here. This is reproduction of the original on Vertigo, which I do not have. I should probably get that on Vertigo. I have another uh, U.S. Columbia one up there, but it's kind of just a thin record. It's not even a gatefold. And again, that's of Three Friends. That's not of that. That's not of this. Let's go up to the next one here, number 6. I love this record. Now I have a hard time putting it down this far. I like it most. I'm a defender of this record. I love Give It Back, Design, and I'm talking about Interview. And I know it's weird with the stuff, but the second side, Empty City, Timing, I Lost My Head. I think it has to be a showstopper, man. Timing, ding ding doo ding ow ow. It's fantastic. Hey, for my babe, for my girl. I just think it's great. Ow. I don't know if you're underwater, one of these like bobblehead things where it looks like a pug wash is like holding his breath, doesn't it? Anyway, good record. I like it. I like it a lot. I like the concept of it. I never understood why other people didn't like it. I've heard people put it down. I heard people say that that's not in the same league as those. I don't agree. I think there is a major jump from the first record that I just had there at number 7 and this one at number 6. And this is where they get really, really good. And we're talking about Three Friends next. This is the other cover, the alternate cover, of course, the first cover. The songs, you know the songs. I mean, they're kind of the first ones out of it. Peel the Tape, School Days, Three Friends, the whole long Three Friends thing. Once Three Friends, Sweet and Sadness, now part of their past, but in the end, full of gladness. Philip still in the band, man, having a big say in it. And the three brothers, man. The three brothers. You're talking about 3 Shulman brothers. Derek, Philip, and Ray. Produced by produced by Gentle Giant. Engineered by Martin Rushent. Interesting, huh? It's funny how they end up taking up different. And Martin ended up being a seminal producer in the whole new music campaign that came right after this. Martin served a big thing in Joy Division, right? Didn't he? Wasn't he an engineer? Some of these guys escape me. I'm not as big of a fan of those that are. It reminds me of something. I have one that's coming up here before too long, where I'm going to mention a couple things, and they're not records that I don't have. But what they are kind of records that other people are gaga about, and I'm just still trying to say, man, I'm trying to get you, but I'm not. And there's quite a few records with me that are like that. It's not so much with Gentle Giant, but there's quite a few of the ones that other people I think are really popular and really good. And here comes one that's a real favorite that we had. I used to have it one of my friends that I had a band here before Mike Hounshaw had this record, bass player, real good musician, had a recording studio back home. On WWA, this record was not released in the United States. They did not have this, and it was on WWA Records, wherever this is. Maybe this is German. I'm not sure where it is. But I remember getting this, and I was excited, but Michael had this, Runaway Inmate's Lullaby. How can you forget that? Glass House 2, Experience. A Reunion. There it is. That's the song I was talking about from Carrie. Look at Carrie smiling here on the back. Meeting in this way, no one could have known. And you got this extra little thing inside. And you got this thing that pulls out here that can change the lens. But this was the end for Philip, man. He had enough with this. And it's an Inmate's Lullabies on here. It's kind of haunting. I don't know what that had to do with anything. Hopefully not. Hopefully there wasn't any bit of that was factual. But it was kind of jarring when you find out that after that, at least that's what the rumor was back here, that things didn't go well for him. Let's talk while he was still in the band, though, and the band was smoking. Let's talk about the unforgettable Octopus, the advent of Panurge, Rocketeer Troubadour. Knots. My God. Dog's Life. Think of Me with Kindness River. I mean, Boys in the Band. This is probably, to me, the most consistent listen from start to finish. This is where I think they really, you can say they hit one of the peaks. It's 1972. But I think Carey really had a major point forward in this. And I hear him more, I hear it backing off of the guitar so much before this. Before this, it was a little heavier. Maybe they were trying to be on Vertigo. Maybe that was part of the plan. I don't know. But this record is just so special. And I could just listen to this thing forever. And, it could be one in the top. It could be one of the top three anytime. 1, 2, and 3 here are very, very close. I have one that's higher than the other. I don't think any Gentle Giant albums, because of how obtuse they are, could really be a 5-star record. I couldn't recommend them for all the listeners. I would say 4.5 would be my number one, and this would be the 4 category here. I just love it. I think it's good. In fact, in some ways, it's a smoother listen than some of my later ones. But the 2 that I have left, so what's it going to be? Where am I going to go with it, huh? What do you think? Well, I got 2 left, and I'm going to go. Who could believe it? That my hands are free, that my hands are free. Free hand, free hand, free hand, free hand. On Reflection, one of those round songs where somebody sings a line. Dun, 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 dun. Comes right by there. Time to Kill, Taliban, something else, man. Mobile. Time to Kill, Last Voyage, On Reflection, Freehand. They were really hitting their peak, at least in the United States at that time. I would say it's probably the most popular they were. Tour wise, it looked like it. I think right about that time wasn't the live record out. This live, what's it playing the full? Is that live? I don't know if it's On Reflection is on this. I think it is. I think it's on this tour. But yeah, that's a really strong live record too. That doesn't get mentioned sometimes in some of the great prog records. But when you realize that was all recorded live, and I heard of it, I heard a show on one of the great channels on here that said that the guy said no, it was played pretty much live without anything, and that leaves the most obtuse one of all. And this is certainly not one you want to. Freehand, you probably want to get into first if you're coming in and trying to join the band, trying to find out what's going on. You could go with the early stuff. The early stuff you could ease into it. A lot of people like Glass House. Glass House is a kind of a smoother entry. I love Three Friends. I love Octopus. Octopus is fantastic. I think Octopus. If you get an Octopus first, you may have hit the peak or whatever. You may not want to. Because for that style, it probably is the most it ever was. It kind of backed down from there. And some of the later stuff became a little bit more jazzy and maybe less proggy or a little bit more classical. But how about the record that's shaped like a card? How about the power and the glory, folks? There's really nothing like this record. I love the warning that it sets forth. I have the inside here. Derek V. Shulman, it says. Ray Shulman, Carrie C. Minier, Gary W. Green, and John P. Weathers. Ray didn't go along with it. Everybody else. Proclamation. Oh, how about those those versions on the YouTube video? Aren't those fantastic? They're really good. So Sincere, Aspirations, Playing the Game, and the best of all, Cogs and Cogs. I know it's complicated as hell, but man, it's cool. It's fun to play drums too. I really enjoy playing it. I saw a band, just for kicks, guys, if you haven't seen it, there's a School of Rock band that's playing it, and these kids are really getting it. Ding, 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 ding. It's just funny to see them. They really like it, though. I love Play the Game. I love No Man, No Gods and Man. I love every song, and that's why it's my number one. It's the most consistent to me. Yes, it's the most. I understand it's irritable. It jumps around a lot. I understand it's not trying to be pretty. But I think for effective communication and what I like about Gentle Giant, it's this one today. It could be any of the top 3 or 4, maybe 3. I'd say 3. That's probably Glass House is probably just a step below the other 3. But my golly, good band. If you don't know anything about them, I'm sure 90% of the people know something about it. But if some people have maybe fallen in here that don't know anything about prog rock and have not been there on this. This isn't your typical prog rock. It's not something like Yes or Genesis necessarily. I don't think. I mean, there are parts of it that are, but there's so much classical influence and so much old style English arranging and Baroque influences and instrument changing and woodwinds and violins, and they're just a prolific band, both on the amount of instruments they played and the output that they had. And they have, as everybody knows, made the decision where they're not coming back. They don't want to come back, and I respect that decision. And unfortunately, we've lost a few along the way, but for all of them still here, we thank you very much for your great output of music. And it seems seemingly like it's even more influential now than it was when we were little. It was kind of a best kept secret when we were growing up. But anyway, for all the kindred spirits, please, if you would, help us out. Hit the like button, subscribe if you will. And we really appreciate you being on this journey with us. And we'll catch you guys next time with something new. Thanks. See you.